You grabbed a protein bar off the shelf at Walmart last Tuesday. Maybe a Kind bar or one of those Quest bars, looked at the macros on the back, felt good about yourself, and put it in your cart next to your Greek yogurt and your low-fat everything. And I get it. That felt responsible. That felt like a man who was paying attention to his body. But here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody in the supplement aisle is going to tell you. That bar and half the things in your cart are quietly working against the exact goal you're trying to reach, especially if you're over 60 and trying to get lean. The fitness industry has been selling men over 60 a version of nutrition that was designed for 28-year-old bodybuilders, tweaked slightly, repackaged with a silver-haired guy on the label, and marked up 40%, and you have been buying it, not because you're foolish, but because the messaging is everywhere, and it sounds logical. High protein, low fat, cut the carbs, take the supplements. But the men who are actually shredded past 60, and I mean genuinely lean with visible muscle and real energy, most of them are not shopping in the supplement aisle at all. Most of them are buying the same 12 to 15 foods every single week from the regular grocery store, spending somewhere between $80 and $110, and they are getting results that embarrass men half their age. Tonight or tomorrow morning before you go shopping, I am going to walk you through that exact grocery list, not a philosophy, not a mindset speech, an actual list of foods with prices, with the reasons each one works differently in a body over 60, and the specific mistakes most older men make with each one that cancel out the benefit entirely. Let me tell you about a man named Gerald Hutchins. Gerald is 71 years old, lives outside Knoxville, Tennessee, spent 38 years working in a machine shop, and has the kind of arms that make younger men at the gym quietly recalibrate their assumptions. Gerald is not a genetic freak, he told me, and I'm paraphrasing here, that until he was 64, he looked exactly like what you would expect a retired machinist to look like. Soft in the middle, low energy, joints that complained every morning. He had been doing what his doctor told him, watching his cholesterol, eating low fat, doing some walking. Nothing was changing. Then a guy named Mick, who ran a small butcher shop in Maryville for 40 years, started talking to Gerald about food the way tradesmen talk about tools, specifically, practically, with zero interest in trends. What Mick told Gerald was simple, and it is the foundation of everything I'm going to share with you today. He said, stop buying food that has been engineered to look like food. Buy the actual thing, the whole thing, and eat more of it than you think you need, especially the stuff that has been demonized since the 1970s. That brings us to the first item on this list, and it is one that will immediately make some of you uncomfortable. Whole eggs, not egg whites, not the egg white carton. Whole eggs, with the yolk, ideally pasture-raised if your store carries them, and at most grocery stores right now you're looking at about $4.50 to $6 for a dozen pasture-raised eggs. That is not expensive. That is cheaper per gram of protein than almost any bar or powder you're buying. But here's why the yolk matters specifically for men over 60. The yolk contains cholesterol, yes, but it also contains choline, lutein, vitamin D, and a cluster of fat-soluble vitamins that your body uses to produce testosterone and support muscle protein synthesis. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that men who ate whole eggs after resistance training had significantly greater muscle protein synthesis compared to men who consumed an equivalent amount of protein from egg whites alone. The mechanism appears to be the fat in the yolk facilitating absorption of the amino acids. You have been throwing away the most anabolic part of the egg. Gerald eats 4 whole eggs every morning, has for 6 years. His last lipid panel, his words looked better than it did at 55. The second item is beef liver. And before you click away, give me 45 seconds. A pound of beef liver at most grocery stores costs between $2 and $3. It is the most nutrient-dense food on this list by a significant margin. For men over 60, the two things that quietly destroy your ability to stay lean and build muscle are low testosterone and poor iron status. And beef liver addresses both directly. It is one of the highest natural sources of heme iron, vitamin B12, zinc, and copper. It also contains retinol, the active form of vitamin A, which plays a role in testosterone production. You do not need to eat it every day. 2 to 3 ounces twice a week is enough. The mistake most men make when they try liver is they buy it, cook it wrong, it tastes like a punishment, and they never buy it again. Here's the fix. Soak it in whole milk for 2 hours before cooking. Slice it thin. Cook it hot and fast, no more than 2 minutes per side. It should still be slightly pink in the middle. That is not dangerous with liver, that is correct. Overcooking is what makes it taste like cardboard soaked in pennies. Item 3 is one you probably already have in your cart, but are almost certainly buying the wrong version of canned sardines. And I know, but stay with me. A can of wild-caught sardines in olive oil, the good ones, runs about $2.20 at most stores. Wild Planet is a good brand. Vital Choice is another. Sardines are one of the highest natural sources of omega-3 fatty acids, and for men over 60, omega-3 intake is directly linked to reduced muscle breakdown, lower systemic inflammation, and improved insulin sensitivity. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, and this was specifically in older adults, found that omega-3 supplementation significantly increased the rate of muscle protein synthesis in response to amino acids and insulin. But here's the thing. The sardines do it better than the fish oil capsule because the fat is bound to phospholipids in the whole food, which appears to improve absorption. You are also getting calcium from the bones, which most older men are not getting enough of, and you are getting vitamin D and selenium. The mistake is buying the ones packed in soybean oil or sunflower oil because those industrial seed oils are high in omega-6 and they partially offset the anti-inflammatory benefit. Get them in olive oil or water. Eat 2 cans a week minimum. Now we need to talk about carbohydrates, because this is where men over 60 get the most confused and where the most damage is done by bad advice. The low-carb movement convinced a generation of older men that carbohydrates are the enemy, and for some specific medical situations that may be partially true. But for a man who is trying to maintain or build muscle past 60, chronically undereating carbohydrates tanks your testosterone, destroys your sleep quality, and makes your body increasingly reluctant to hold on to muscle tissue. Your muscles store glycogen, which comes from carbohydrates, and that glycogen is what fuels your training and signals your body that there is enough resources available to maintain muscle. When glycogen is chronically depleted, your body reads that as a stress state and cortisol goes up, and testosterone goes down. That is the opposite of shredded. That is skinny fat with a bad mood. Item 4 on this list is white rice. Not brown rice, not cauliflower rice, not a rice alternative. White rice, a 5-pound bag costs about $4 at most grocery stores and lasts a long time. White rice is easy to digest. It spikes insulin in a controlled and useful way post-workout, and it does not carry the phytic acid load that brown rice does. Phytic acid is an anti-nutrient that can reduce absorption of zinc and iron, which are 2 minerals that older men are frequently low in. The Japanese population, which has some of the highest rates of longevity and leanness in the world, has eaten white rice as a dietary staple for centuries. This is not a coincidence. 200 to 250 grams of cooked white rice after your training session is a practical, cheap, effective way to refuel your muscles and support recovery. The mistake is eating it at the wrong time. Eat it after you train, not as a random side dish at every meal. Item 5 is ground beef, 80% lean, not 93% lean. This is going to feel counterintuitive if you have been trained to fear fat, but 80% ground beef, which runs about $5 to $6 a pound at most stores, gives you a better ratio of fat to protein for testosterone support. The saturated fat in red meat is a precursor to cholesterol, and cholesterol is a precursor to testosterone. Men who chronically eat very low-fat diets have measurably lower testosterone levels. A review published in the Journal of Steroid Biochemistry and Molecular Biology found a consistent positive association between dietary fat intake, particularly saturated fat, and serum testosterone levels in men. You do not need to eat red meat every day, but 3 to 4 times a week, a 4 to 6 ounce serving of 80% ground beef is doing serious work for your hormonal environment. Cook it in a cast iron pan. Do not drain the fat, eat it with your white rice and a vegetable. That is a complete meal. That is what Gerald eats 4 times a week. Item 6 is whole milk, not skim, not 2% whole milk. A gallon of whole milk at Walmart is currently running about $3.50. Whole milk contains a combination of protein, fat, and carbohydrates that makes it one of the most effective post-workout recovery foods available. Research going back decades consistently shows that whole milk outperforms skim milk for promoting muscle protein synthesis after resistance training, likely because the fat slows digestion and prolongs the amino acid delivery window. For men over 60, there is another reason whole milk matters. It is a meaningful source of vitamin K2, which works with vitamin D to direct calcium into your bones rather than your arteries. Most older men are deficient in both. 1 to 2 cups of whole milk per day, ideally around your training window, is a practical and inexpensive tool. The mistake is drinking it with a high-carbohydrate meal at the wrong time, which can push total calories too high. Use it strategically. Item 7 is potatoes. Not sweet potatoes necessarily, though those are fine too. Regular white potatoes or russet potatoes, which you can buy for about $1.50 per pound. Potatoes have been unfairly maligned because of their glycemic index score. But glycemic index is measured in isolation, and your body does not eat foods in isolation. A boiled or baked potato eaten with protein and fat has a very different effect on blood sugar than a potato eaten alone. More importantly, potatoes are one of the highest natural sources of potassium available, and potassium is critical for muscle contraction, blood pressure regulation, and reducing the muscle cramps that many older men experience during and after training. They also contain resistant starch when cooled after cooking, which feeds beneficial gut bacteria and improves insulin sensitivity over time. Boil your potatoes, let them cool in the fridge overnight, then reheat them or eat them cold. That cooling process increases the resistant starch content significantly. Eat them with butter, which brings us to item 8. Butter. Real butter. Kerrygold is widely available and runs about $5 to $6 for a half pound. But even standard store-brand butter is fine. Butter from grass-fed cows has a higher concentration of conjugated linoleic acid, or CLA, which has been associated with reduced body fat and preserved lean mass in some research. More practically, butter makes vegetables and potatoes palatable enough that you will actually eat them consistently, which matters more than the marginal nutritional difference between brands. It also provides fat-soluble vitamins and supports the hormonal environment we keep coming back to. The mistake men make with butter is using it sparingly out of decades of conditioning while freely using vegetable oil spreads that are genuinely worse for them. Use real butter without guilt in reasonable amounts. Item 9 is full-fat Greek yogurt. Not the low-fat version, not the flavored version with fruit on the bottom that has 23 grams of sugar. Plain full-fat Greek yogurt. Phage or Chobani both make a full-fat version. A 17-ounce container runs about $5 to $6. This is your practical protein tool for mornings, for snacks, and for building the gut microbiome that men over 60 consistently neglect. The live cultures in Greek yogurt support gut health, and emerging research suggests that gut health has a meaningful impact on inflammation levels, immune function, and even testosterone metabolism. The full-fat version is more satiating, which means you eat less overall, and it does not spike blood sugar the way the low-fat versions do because the fat slows digestion. Add a tablespoon of honey and some walnuts to it, and you have a complete snack with protein, fat, carbohydrates, and micronutrients in about 90 seconds of effort. Item 10 is spinach. Fresh or frozen, it does not matter. A large bag of frozen spinach costs about $2.50 and lasts 2 weeks in your freezer. Spinach is high in nitrates, which your body converts to nitric oxide, which dilates blood vessels and improves blood flow to muscles during training. Research published in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics found that dietary nitrate from vegetables like spinach may improve muscle efficiency and exercise performance. For older men whose circulation is not what it was at 30, this is a practical and cheap way to improve your training quality without a pre-workout supplement. Spinach is also high in magnesium, which most older men are deficient in, and magnesium deficiency is directly linked to poor sleep, low testosterone, and impaired muscle recovery. 3 to 4 cups of spinach per day, cooked down from frozen, is easy to hit if you add it to eggs, to ground beef, to soups, or to any meal where it disappears into the dish. Item 11 is walnuts. A 1-pound bag of raw walnuts costs about $8 to $10 and lasts 2 to 3 weeks if you're portioning correctly. Walnuts are one of the best plant-based sources of alpha-linolenic acid, a precursor to omega-3 fatty acids. They also contain elagitannins, which gut bacteria convert to urolithin a compound that has been studied for its potential to support mitochondrial health and muscle function in older adults. A study published in Nature Metabolism in 2019 found that urolithin A supplementation improved muscle endurance in older adults. You can get the precursor compounds from walnuts for a fraction of the cost of the supplement. 1 ounce per day, about a small handful, is the practical target. Do not eat them by the fistful because they are calorie dense. Item 12 is garlic. Fresh garlic, not garlic powder, not garlic salt. A head of garlic costs about 50 cents to $1 and contains enough cloves for a week or more of cooking. Fresh garlic contains allicin, which is produced when you crush or chop a clove and let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes before cooking. Allicin has been studied for its effects on blood pressure, cardiovascular health, and interestingly, testosterone. A study in rats found that garlic supplementation significantly increased testosterone levels, and while rat studies do not translate directly to humans, the mechanism, which involves reducing cortisol and supporting the adrenal gonadal axis, is plausible and consistent with what we know about chronic stress and testosterone suppression. More practically, garlic makes everything taste better, which means you will actually eat the foods on this list consistently. Cook with 2 to 3 cloves per meal. Crush them first, let them sit, then add them to whatever you are cooking. Item 13 is olive oil. Extra virgin, not light, not pure, not blended. A 34-ounce bottle of a decent extra virgin olive oil runs about $12 to $15 and lasts several weeks. Olive oil is high in oleic acid, a monounsaturated fat that is associated with reduced inflammation and improved insulin sensitivity. A study published in Lipids in Health and Disease found that olive oil consumption was positively associated with testosterone levels in healthy young men. The mechanism appears to involve oleic acid supporting the cellular machinery that produces testosterone in the Leydig cells of the testes. Do not heat olive oil to smoking point because that degrades the polyphenols that make it valuable. Use it for lower heat cooking, for dressings, and for drizzling on finished dishes. Use butter or tallow for high heat cooking. Item 14 is oats. Steel cut or rolled, not instant. A 42-ounce container of Quaker rolled oats costs about $4 and lasts several weeks. Oats are one of the most practical, slow-digesting carbohydrate sources available for older men who need sustained energy without blood sugar spikes. They are high in beta-glucan, a soluble fiber that has been shown in multiple studies to reduce LDL cholesterol and improve gut motility. They are also a meaningful source of zinc and magnesium. The mistake most men make with oats is eating them plain with water, getting bored and abandoning them. Cook them with whole milk, add a tablespoon of butter, a small amount of honey, and some walnuts. That is a meal with sustained energy, healthy fat, and enough flavor to make it a habit. Half a cup of dry oats is the right portion for most men. Item 15 is bone broth. Not the powder, not the bouillon cube, actual bone broth. Either homemade or a quality store brand like Kettle and Fire, which runs about $7 to $8 for a 32-ounce carton. Bone broth is high in glycine, an amino acid that is underrepresented in modern diets because we no longer eat the connective tissue and bones of animals the way previous generations did. Glycine is critical for collagen synthesis, which is what your tendons, ligaments, and joint cartilage are made of. For men over 60 who are training, joint integrity is often the limiting factor, not muscle strength. Drinking 1 cup of bone broth per day or using it as the liquid base for cooking rice or oats is a practical way to support connective tissue health without buying collagen powder supplements that cost 4 times as much for the same amino acid profile. Now, somewhere in the final third of this video is where I want to mention something practical. I put together a printable grocery list and weekly meal template specifically for men over 60 who are trying to get lean without spending a fortune or spending hours in the kitchen. It is a single PDF, 2 pages, with the exact foods from this list, the quantities to buy for 1 week, and a simple daily eating structure that takes about 10 minutes to set up each morning. If you want it, the link is in the description. It is not complicated. It is not a diet plan with rules. It is a shopping list and a template that you print out, put on your refrigerator, and follow until it becomes automatic. That is it. Now let me talk about the 3 mistakes that men over 60 make even when they have the right grocery list, because having the right food in your house is only half of it. The first mistake is undereating protein in the morning. Most older men eat their largest protein meal at dinner, which is the least useful time from a muscle protein synthesis standpoint. Your body needs a meaningful protein stimulus every 4 to 5 hours to keep muscle protein synthesis elevated. That means your breakfast needs to contain at least 30 to 40 grams of protein. 4 whole eggs and a cup of Greek yogurt gets you there. Do not start your day with oatmeal alone or fruit and coffee. That is a muscle-wasting breakfast for a man over 60, regardless of how healthy it sounds. The second mistake is training fasted. Intermittent fasting became very popular, and for some people it works well. But for men over 60 who are trying to build or maintain muscle, training in a fasted state consistently elevates cortisol during the workout and impairs muscle protein synthesis afterward. Eat something before you train. It does not have to be a large meal. 2 whole eggs and a cup of whole milk 30 to 45 minutes before training is enough to change the hormonal environment of your workout meaningfully. The third mistake is ignoring sleep as a nutritional issue. This is where the magnesium from spinach and oats becomes critical. Magnesium is required for the production of GABA, the neurotransmitter that allows your brain to slow down and enter deep sleep. Deep sleep is when the majority of your growth hormone is released, and growth hormone is what drives fat loss and muscle repair in older men. If you are sleeping poorly, no grocery list in the world will fully compensate for that. Eat your spinach. Consider a small amount of magnesium glycinate before bed if you're consistently waking up at 3 in the morning. Ask your doctor before adding any supplement, particularly if you're on medications. There's a reason this information is not on the label of the protein bar you grabbed last Tuesday. The supplement industry in the United States generates over $50 billion per year. Whole eggs generate revenue for egg farmers. Canned sardines generate revenue for a few small fishing operations. The incentive structure of the nutrition information you receive is not aligned with your health. It is aligned with the sale of processed, packaged, high-margin products. The men who figured this out, men like Gerald in Knoxville, men who had a Mick in their life, who talked straight about food, those men are the ones who look the way you want to look at 65, 70, 75. The grocery list I just walked you through will cost you between $85 and $115 per week, depending on your location and how much red meat you buy. That is less than most men spend on supplements, protein bars, and gym nutrition products that are doing far less for them. You do not need a special diet. You do not need a meal delivery service. You need a cart full of real food and the knowledge of how to use it, which you now have. The printable PDF in the description has the full list organized by section of the store, so you can move through your grocery trip in about 15 minutes without backtracking. It also has a simple daily eating structure, not a rigid meal plan, just a framework for when to eat protein, when to eat carbohydrates, and how to time your food around your training. It is the kind of thing you print once and use for months. I want to hear from you in the comments. Tell me how old you are and the one food on this list that surprised you the most. I read every comment on this channel, and the conversations in the comment section on videos like this one are genuinely some of the best nutritional discussions I have seen anywhere online, because you are real men with real experience and real results, not influencers selling something. Drop your age and your reaction to the liver or the whole milk or the white rice. Because I guarantee someone else watching this right now has the same hesitation you do, and your comment might be the thing that pushes them to try it. In the next video, I'm going to show you the training side of this equation. A specific resistance training protocol for men over 60 that takes 35 minutes, requires no machines, and has produced more visible muscle change in older men than anything else I have